So this is Bhagavad Gita 18:14. Padishtanam ta karta karanam cha pritagvidham vividhascha pritak cheshta daivam chaivacha panchamam. Translation: the place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. These are the five factors of action. Purport: the word adhisthana refers to the body. The soul within the body is acting to bring about the results of activity and is therefore known as karta, the doer. That the soul is the knower and the doer is stated in the Shruti, Esha hi drashta shastra. It is also confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra by the verses Gyota eva and karta shastrarta bhat. The instruments of action are the senses, and by the senses the soul acts in various ways. For each and every action, there is a different endeavor, but all one's activities depend on the will of the Supersoul, who is seated within the heart as a friend. The Supreme Lord is the supercause. Under these circumstances, he who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the Supersoul, situated within the heart, is naturally not bound by any activity. Those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the Supreme Will, the Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I mainly wanted to focus on the first part of, well, the verse and the first part of the purport, not really touching the last points that Prabhupada made about how the devotee, he makes this actually in many chapters in the Bhagavad Gita, this point that the devotee, one, not just any devotee, but one in complete Krishna consciousness, they're not ultimately responsible for their actions because everything is guided by the super soul within because they're so in touch with the super soul. So the first, well, this is a little bit out of order of how Prabhupada presents it, but the first is the performer. So that's the soul within the body. That's the doer. That's our real self. And then the place of action is the body. So essentially, that part is predestined, that the place of action we get is just due to our karma. So we've been given this packaging, and really in life, there's no point in comparing, what my body or what I can do compared with what somebody else can do. Like we shouldn't expect, that if we have I don't really know like stuff about cars that well, but if we have some 1990s Subaru and somebody else has like the latest Mercedes or Tesla, then we shouldn't expect our little Subaru to be able to do what their Mercedes can do. Um, yeah, just because I mean we all have different capacities, and so I think Dasi Prabhu said in one class that, or was quoting from, I don't know who said it, but that comparison is the thief of joy. So I was just kind of breaking down these like these five factors of action, and that was one thing that came to mind is that so the place of action is essentially, yeah, predestined for us. Of course, we can still do some fine tuning, like we can get an oil change and clean the car and everything like that, but the essential functions will and the essential capacity will remain the same. No matter how much you clean that old Subaru, it's never going to be able to go as fast as like a sports car or self-driving like a Tesla. And then the senses, the instruments of action, are, Prabhupada says, the how the soul acts in various ways. So that's also that's also I mean predestined essentially that it comes with the packaging, comes with the body, and we all have those senses, those instruments of action given in human form of life. Not I don't think every form of life has, yeah, not every form of life has all five of the senses that human beings have. Well, some have I guess you could say like other kind of senses too, like ability to, or just higher capacities, ability to see ultraviolet light and all that kind of stuff. And then the next point is endeavor. So yeah, how hard we work for something or towards a goal. And then the last one is the super soul, which is, man disposes, but God, man proposes, but God disposes. And so, yeah, we can try our best, but Krishna has his plan, and it's our responsibility to, what I was getting from Dhruva Prabhu's class the other day was that whenever I was asking him the question, how, you know, he was making the point, I've heard the point made so many times that we should make plans for our lives, how to be Krishna conscious throughout our lives, a career plan. But then we also hear that, Krishna has his plans and we have our plans, and a lot of times our plans are not the ones that manifest. So how to understand that. And the essence of what I got from the answer that he gave is that we should make a plan how to deepen the relationship with Krishna, not necessarily the plan of just the externals. Oh, I'm going to live here and I'm going to have this kind of place and I'm going to be doing exactly this service and yeah, like this and like that. But really, that no matter what the circumstances are, what efforts am I going to make to improve my relationship with Krishna, to deepen that through whether it's um, mainly through the quality of our hearing and chanting, or no matter the circumstances, I am going to do some service. So more things like that that are um, less focused on just the externals. Of course, that's also nice. Like I'm going to make a plan that I want to start waking up at this time, or chanting this many rounds, or reading for this amount of time per day. But also really focusing on the quality because, yeah. Anyway, I'll get into that point later. So essentially, from all these five factors of action, three of them we really can't control. They're either predestined by our karma, and so there's only so much wiggle room in this life, how much there's like a margin, how much we can improve or um, degrade. I mean, in Kali Yuga, it seems like that margin is weighted more heavily on the degradation side. We can degrade ourselves a whole lot more than we can improve ourselves unless we take to the process of Krishna consciousness. So three of them, like the place of action, the body, we already got this body, the senses, they came with that body, and then the super soul, Krishna's making his own decisions, regardless of our tiny desires, especially if we're not, yeah, practicing bhakti. So then the only two things that we can actually control out of the five factors are our desires. So that's the performer is the soul, and from the soul comes the desires. I mean, it's then filtered through the subtle body, but and then the endeavor. So this point was really hitting home for me the other day while I was studying this verse is that, um, wow, the only two things I can control is what I desire and how hard I work towards that goal and how determined I am to reach that goal or, work on the path toward that goal. So that was like, whoa, um, that's what it comes down to is like we're either desiring for Krishna or we're desiring for Maya. And then how much energy do I put in either direction? It's really quite simple. So we have a desire and that opens up like a pathway. Or I was thinking like of because I've been walking around near like the river and the streams and all this. So you're like opening up a channel, and then how much do I want to let my energy flow through that channel? And at any moment, we have the power to decide, yeah, how much energy am I going to put into that material desire channel, or how much energy am I going to put into that Krishna conscious desire channel? And then I was just coincidentally reading, I think it was a first canto, and yeah, I might read that verse. It was the prayers of Queen Kunti, and Prabhupada was making the same point in the purports. Actually, that is the verse that I wrote down, so I'll read it later. But yeah, that he's saying like our only choice is that we decide if we want to desire materially and really aggravate those desires by doing so many things, putting our endeavor into finding more materialistic association, finding people that agree with us on those desires, looking up YouTube videos of how to, make progress in those desires, or spending money on those desires, or we can do all those same things for Krishna, which is nice, which is what a devotee does. Like whether we're consciously thinking about it or not, if whenever we're listening to lectures, who we choose to listen to, which devotees, which lectures we choose to listen to, um, yeah, how much time we choose to spend on this or that devotional activity, like all of that is putting our energy into a certain desire channel, a certain pathway towards Krishna. So now I will read that verse from the first canto. Prayers of Queen Kunti. This is text 26. So it's relatively at the beginning of her prayers, I believe. Oh yeah, and most people probably know this verse. Janmaishvarya Shrita Shrivir Edhamana Madapuman Naivar Hatya Tatumbai Tvam Akinchana Gochanam. My lord, your lordship can be easily approached. My lord, your lordship can be easily approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. So even before reading the purport, this just really, just really struck me when I was reading with this other devotee that, wow, this is exactly the point that I was thinking about. One who is on the path of material progress, and so the desire is there. I want to be on that path, on the channel of material progress in whatever way, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty. So we're either, these are either the desires that we want to work towards, or we're using them in pursuance of a different material desire. And Queen Kunzi saying, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. And that's because if we have a set amount of energy, so if it's all going to that material desire channel, then, none of that is going towards Krishna. So they're mutually exclusive. Of course, I mean, this is just one class, so much could be said on this, like dovetailing desires in Krishna consciousness, and then that reroutes things like this and like that. But I'm just trying to focus on the point that um, that I have often heard. It's okay. There's either a choice between Krishna or Maya, and I just always thought like, no, that there's definitely some wiggle room in between, and I just couldn't grasp that point. But the more I have broken it down and heard about it, I'm like, oh, actually, that is the case for all the energy that I put into my material desires. That is the exact quantity of energy that I am withholding from that channel going towards Krishna. Not in like a beating myself up way, but just in a pretty factual way. And then whenever I realize it, I'm like, oh, I should redirect this energy or learn how, inquire from, mentors, senior devotees, even peers. Okay, so here's the purport. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth, an education, and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences. and this is known as the advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly, O Govinda, O Krishna. It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. So that nicely ties in with the pastime of Ajamil. Oh, but then this is the kicker. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but there is also a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely 1. High parentage, 2. Good wealth, 3. High education, and 4. Attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. Anyway, Prabhupada goes on, and then at the end, I'll just read the rest of it actually. It's really nice. Like first canto, when I'm reading the purports, because I think I've heard that Prabhupada put um in a sense like everything. He put so much energy and jam-packed the first canto so much because he wasn't sure if he'd live like long enough to translate and add purports to the rest of the Bhagavatam. But reading the first canto, like my friend was reading, and I'm like, hold on, we just like every sentence of like, we gotta stop here and just think about this for a second because it's just so potent and so exacting. It's pretty incredible. So the material covering of the pure spirit soul is an external feature, as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. So that point that if you look in the mirror and you see a material body, you know you messed up. It is the symptom of a fever, materialistic fever. The general process is to decrease the degree of the fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into the kingdom of God. So, yeah, I just, from all these verses that I've been reading, again, the point that I was getting just to apply to my own life, and actually it's quite like an empowering thing, is that I'm either making moment to moment decisions to come closer to Krishna or I'm not. So that helps to become very conscious and aware of all my actions, my interactions throughout the day, even choices that I may think are small, but that actually have a ripple effect in terms of, I mean, yeah, in terms of so many things, the health of the body, so my ability to get up in the morning is a pretty easy one. It's like, should I eat the, the Maha donuts from yesterday, three of them before I go to bed? Should I not? That's one example of a moment to moment decision. Um, or yeah, also definitely living in like the association of so many different different like um, devotees both in terms of their services and just in terms of the packagings that we all have. There's a lot of opportunities to meditate on this point and how can I make moment to moment decisions? How can I to come closer to Krishna in the way that I interact with this devotee? So yeah, again, it doesn't like this making moment to moment decisions to be able to come closer to Krishna doesn't even just apply to like the nine processes of devotional service. Am I doing one of these at any given time? Which is nice. If you are, I'm definitely not at that level. But also, um, thinking of how we can do more, I guess, quote unquote, indirect services in a way that facilitates our Krishna consciousness. So whether that's exercise, introspection, whenever have to buy personal items, making money, supporting a family. So, I mean, there's so many things that we can, like, there's unlimited things that we could use in Krishna service that are engaging Krishna service other than just if we look at the list of the nine processes of devotional service. So it's helpful, at least for me, in those instances to well, to try to be Krishna conscious. That's what it boils down to. So asking myself, how much Krishna consciousness am I bringing into these activities that don't, in my conditioned state, don't most of the time don't even feel connected to my Krishna consciousness, but are very much connected to my Krishna consciousness. So another point that I was thinking about prior to trying to meditate on the five factors of action and how actually little control I have in the material world other than or in this existence in general, other than my desire and my endeavor, is that um is that really going, yeah, again on the point of there's just Krishna or Maya, is that I think the reason it feels like there's some gray area in between, or it doesn't seem that simple, is because Maya comes in so many different uh, apparent flavors. Like in the life of a devotee, well, in the life of anyone, but we become more conscious of it in the life of a devotee. Is like Maya will come at you front ways, back ways, sideways, diagonally, in like a whole different dimension, and try to take the devotee off the path uh, of bhakti. And it's quite interesting, yeah, just to see if, I mean, at least I was reflecting about my own life. Everyone can do it about theirs too. But just to see how Maya tried this way, and then somehow we made it through that, and then Maya tried that way, and somehow we like really struggled through that one, but we made it, and then Maya tried that way, and it's like after a while, it's just like, oh, it's just really the same thing, and we just have the same decision every time. It's like, okay, am I gonna get through? Like, am I gonna take shelter somehow or other of a Krishna conscious facility that I've been given to make it through this, or am I not? And Maya's just gonna keep shape shifting in different forms, and our same essential decision is gonna be there every time. And it's like, the demons in the Krishna book, they're they're shapeshifters. So the demons are, I guess their essential form is like a humanoid form, but then they can shapeshift into different, looking like different living entities. So in the same way, Maya, she has this like essential form, but she just shapeshifts this way and that way. And how can I best attack that devotee? So it really is that simple. Although, yeah, I mean, that is Maya's, that it's like, ooh, but now she's coming in this way, which is actually very attractive. But that's why there's like, it's explained, there's like the curtain or the veil of Maya, because if you rip, if you rip that back, it's like you know, the true like ugly form is there. I mean, Maya is a servant of Krishna. She's just trying to do her service. She does it very well. But imagine like anyway, that just made me think of like imagine you're getting married or something, and the bride has like this nice veil, looks all nice underneath, and then you like flip the veil, and it's like very ghastly, like witch-looking woman. That's pretty much Maya. Looks really good on the outside and is just yeah, like not so good on the inside, like biting into a rotten apple. Huh. So, hang on. So going back to our relationship with Krishna, is that and this point that I was getting from Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu that it's we might not have so much control over the external circumstances. I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, are have been quite shocked at the way even as devotees our lives have turned out. Of course, mainly for the better. Because Krishna protects his devotee and helps us to advance. But yeah, so many things. I'm like I never thought I would have went there, or been doing this service, or met these devotees, or had this friend, or whatever it might be. So the external circumstances might change, but it's our essential responsibility to just meditate on how am I going to deepen my relationship with Krishna. So I'll give an example because, well, I thrive on examples because this sounds kind of vague as of right now. But I was thinking just like in a relationship, let's say you have a romantic partner, or there's so many people that are um, I keep saying courting, and somebody who was I talking to? Was it maybe it was Vena or Leela or Parijata, and they just started laughing like courting. I was like, yeah, do you guys not call it that? Whatever, dating. And so just like in that relationship, or if you're married, whatever it might be, that it's not so much like, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not necessarily so much how you live in terms of the external circumstances, what how many bedrooms does the house have, and is it at the top of the hill or at the bottom of the hill, or even how much money the one person or the other is making to provide. I mean, let's just take a pretty stereotype gender role thing is that like let's say even in materialistic society, the man's like, okay, he's the breadwinner and he's trying to make all this money to buy the wife like jewelry and clothes and this, that, and the other, and have a nice house. And he's just working and working and working and doing so much to, try to make this woman happy. But so many times we can see, and the statistics show that people work like dogs nowadays, and then they wonder why their relationship is falling apart when they're saying, well, but I did this and I did that and I provided so much money and I bought her, a diamond ring and I did whatever, but it gave absolutely no time and attention to that other person. And I mean, the same could be said the other way around. But yeah, no time and attention was given in that relationship. And so that's where even materially people make mistakes and things fall apart, is that people invest so much in the externals, thinking that that's the glue that holds the relationship together. But when really the depth of the relationship comes with time and emotion and loving exchanges, and this is really like the big one, is how much is that person willing to work on themselves and change for the improvement and the betterment of the relationship. And this can all be applied to our relationship with Krishna. And I have seen in my own experience, I can focus so much on like the external results of my service and judge my advancement or how well I'm doing in Krishna consciousness based on that. And I guess to a small degree, um, to a small degree, yeah, that is true because, like Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita purports, at least in one, I think it's in multiple, but like uh, I don't want to misquote it, but essentially, like, sometimes a devotee's advancement can be seen in how many, yeah, how many other people they're able to make Krishna conscious. Well, actually, he says it as an absolute statement. How many other people they're able to make Krishna conscious and turn into devotees. That is a symptom of how advanced one is. But let's just like put that to the side for a second. So if we're just judging our advancement or the depth of our relationship with Krishna based on the external results, at least I found in my personal example that that's not necessarily the best indicator of how deep is my relationship with Krishna. But I've been trying to focus more on these internal things, especially while I'm here in the Dham, and Radha Damodar very mercifully stirs a lot up, is that how much, am I taking the time for Krishna? How much am I putting my emotions into Krishna? How much am I actively thinking about what loving exchanges I can do with Krishna? And how much am I working on myself internally to be able to come closer and thicken and deepen my relationship with Krishna? And that's really that in and of itself will then result in whatever, externals might come, how much we're able to touch other people's hearts, um, even if it's just the devotees around us and making a more Krishna conscious atmosphere here, let alone other people that come in contact with us and can just see like, wow, there's something different about this person, like your Weiss, and and they're like, oh my God, what is with that person? They're so effulgent. Uh, So yeah, I just while I'm here, I've been thinking about that point a lot. How can I do more internal work and on cultivating a deeper relationship with Krishna and hopefully in time developing the qualities of a devotee? I might just stop. Yeah, I might just stop there. So does anybody have any comments or corrections or questions?
Hare Krishna. Dina Pellicula
Okay,
Prabhu.
James is asking, what's the difference between your plan and Krishna's plan, even if your plan is for the satisfaction of the Lord? The reason I ask, because internally I don't feel some of my plans are my own plans, even though externally it may seem like that. You mentioned indirect services. Oh, yeah, it's like a lot of, it's like, oh, sorry. Sorry, Tarika Prabhu, I didn't even hear. Hang on.
Can you hear me now? Hare Krishna.
My apologies. I didn't know you were talking. My volume was down all the way. Please continue. Sorry.
Oh, it's so you can go ahead with James's
Would you
message
like to
there.
answer this one? I feel like you'd have a better answer than I would.
Well, I'm just rereading here. Yeah, so we may have a particular idea of what will be pleasing to Krishna. Krishna, of course, is an individual, and he may have an entirely different idea. Um, as is true with any individuals. We all have different ideas. Um, I may think that I want to please a particular individual, my uh, family member. Maybe I want to please them with a gift. I remember as a child, my parents uh, getting a gift for me and actually being very unhappy because I had something entirely different in mind. Where we are all individuals and we have individual desires and interests, and sometimes that's not easy for another individual to understand or perceive. So, in the matter of trying to please Krishna, who is not necessarily very easy to understand, particularly if we are not intimately connected with him, we try to understand Krishna through the via media of our spiritual master. He explains to us who Krishna is, what he is like, what his interests are, and can give us a clearer idea of how we can best please him by our activities. Individually, we can conjure up all kinds of ideas that we think may be pleasing, but they may in fact not be what Krishna would prefer. So it's important to understand by some sort of inquiry. You can take a shot in the dark at trying to please someone in some particular way, but if you really want to know what would please them, you can ask them, "What can I do for you? I'd like to do something pleasing for you. What would you prefer?" And so, if we are not sufficiently advanced to be able to understand directly what is Krishna's specific desire, then we take guidance from the spiritual master. Otherwise, we can wing it, and it's hit and miss. Might be pleasing to Krishna, or might not be. So that's the simple answer. Dina Palika Prabhu, I want to thank you for a nice class. It was very thought-provoking. You had my mind jumping all over the place, thinking about a lot of things. And I'm trying to remember now what those things were, so that I can comment on them. Um, my goodness, I've lost track of my thoughts, but oh my goodness, there was something in particular I wanted to mention. I have completely lost it.
Can I
My
ask you a
goodness.
question just based on what you had mentioned to James or answered to James?
Yeah, please.
Just on the last point of, yeah, we can know Krishna's plans through the instructions of the spiritual master, for example. But what did you do, like after Prabhupada left our vision? Like what does one do then after that?
Oh my goodness, what a question. It's a great question. It's a very important question. Boy, we could give several days of discussion on this subject. Um, the disappearance of the spiritual master is a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal. And um, oh my goodness, how can I treat this issue satisfactorily in the time we have here?
In six
Um,
minutes.
yeah. Um, well, disappearance of the spiritual master is devastating for the disciple. It's devastating. You have not experienced that. Let me tell you, it is devastating. Sometimes devotees don't realize initially how great is their loss. It gradually dawns over time when you realize that you no longer have the benefit of being able to directly approach someone for the answers to pressing questions that are exercising you or even the society at large. In the case of Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, we faced so many grave issues. Um, and we were really in a terrible situation, having no single um, um, arbiter of what what was correct or what course of action to take. Um, in Srila Prabhupada's presence, when issues would arise, um, the matter was resolved simply and quickly. And Srila Prabhupada would issue his opinion, and that was it was final. It was simple. In the absence of his personal presence, then individuals will have different opinions, and there will sometimes, if not often, be no final conclusion. Um, and so all kinds of division arises. And but the benefit that we have is that the Vaishnavas will leave behind their words um, in in a written form, um, particularly in our line of succession. The writing of books is a critical function, and so we have the opportunity to study the written words of our acharyas to try to get guidance when necessary. In modern age, we have also audio recordings and even videos. None of these should be neglected. They're extremely important. There are nuances that you can gain from these different media. Um, I may be going off on some tangents here, but these are just the things that are arising in my mind. For myself, I studied scrutinizingly the recorded words of Srila Prabhupada. Not, I read all the books, but then there was a point when I was very ill and I had a lot of time. I was bedbound and I was just listening to recordings. And what I found was that the recordings were not redundant. It was not just a rehashing of what was found in the books, but that um, there were nuances that could not be found in the books. A tremendous amount of information, new angles of vision. Um, with regards to the book, Srila Prabhupada said that for any given book, he could write innumerable purports to any given text. There's the it's not that what he gave us in a particular purport is all and everything. Um, there's many angles of visions and there's so much that could be spoken. So you listen to Srila Prabhupada's lectures on a particular verse and you'll find so much new understanding from above and beyond what you may find in the written purport in the book. Um, it just broadens your understanding. Um, and this may have nothing to do with your question, but I'm compelled to say this that those recordings of Srila Prabhupada are immensely valuable, immensely valuable. I would study each recording. I'd listen to it 4 to 6 times consecutively because it took me that many times listening to ensure that I was accurately understanding what was there. And what I found was that even after reading the books, in some cases many times, I I discovered from listening to those recordings that I had misunderstood things that Srila Prabhupada had written in his purports. There were many instances in which I had an incorrect understanding that was made clear to me by hearing those recordings because so much more nuance is given. Um, and when you can hear Srila Prabhupada's voice, which just by itself, hearing directly with your ears is so beneficial. But then to be able to hear the inflections of his voice, to be able to detect when he's being sarcastic or humorous or whatever the case may be. Um, it, there are there are nuances that don't come across in the written word. So that there's so much more to understand in that way. Anyway, the passing of the spiritual master is a very, very terrible loss. And one thing to understand is that while you have the benefit of the spiritual master, you want to take very, very full advantage and never waste a moment. You want to get all the benefit that you possibly can. Never take any of that opportunity for granted. If the spiritual master is speaking anything recorded, for God's sake, don't let those words go by unrecorded.
Thank you, Prabhu. Srimad
Jai Shri
Bhagavatam.
Shri Radha Damodar.
कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो।
Thank you.
Shri Krishna, Shri
Yeah.
Shishirada Vishnu Govardhana Shankar Mari Fungiri Govardhana